an hour now in terms of, and a little bit more indeed if you need, in terms of our final discussion. Let's not forget Neil's, not that we could. So all of the papers, including Neil's paper before lunch, are all open for discussion. So if anybody has a point to make, how do you want to make, Dave?
Just so I'm clear, Jason, you indicated that the Department of Fisheries and Oceans had also done studies and found the magnitude of consumption was much less, but theirs was a diet study, not a reinterpretation of the tagging study, wasn't it?
Yeah. I always like to just throw in like a bunch of ugly, terrible slides that I would never put in a presentation at the end. So they did a gut content analysis. Yeah, sure. They did a gut content analysis. The red pyramids, or diamonds, I guess, rather. Those are basically when and how many smolts they were finding that were being consumed. And this is what they were finding, is basically that of the striped bass that they were sampling, it looked like there was basically next to no smolts in them. And so I think that kind of rattled the cage a little bit for a lot of people, and they said, well, there's just no way that this is actually going to be the case. So this is kind of really what prompted this whole project in the first place. So.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
Yes. Niels.
No, it's not just for you, Jason. That's also for Joni, actually, because you get the same problem here when you collect these pellets or collect a few bass out of a population and look at the diet there, because we did a lot of sensitivity studies in that when we collected all these goddamn 5,000 pellets there and looked in them. The thing is that you get a very small sample of a very tiny subsample of a huge sample. I mean, you had 2,500 birds or something producing one pellet per day. So in that period, for the cormorant's sake, there would be like a sample of 100,000 pellets in total, and you take out these 60. And what we found from tagging and also from looking at the otoliths is that some of the predators specialize. And so in certain days, you would have one bird eating 25 smalls, or one bird maybe eating, one bass eating a whole lot of smalls, and you don't catch that. This is the problem. That's where you get that difference, because we saw exactly the same. We thought it was because the otoliths were, melted down or what is it called? Disrupted by the dissolved basically, but I'm pretty sure that's where it is. You have specialist predators. They do it in very short time, very specialized individuals, and you don't catch them by that. But you do it by tagging the fish. So, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, it was a different also island to go on, to also take the pellets and to scan them. It's not easy. It's why the pit tag was not used, because there's so many small produce in this system that we will need to tag maybe 20,000 to have 10,000, I don't know, on 1 million small produce sometimes. So and also there's many colony around, so I know that pit tag would have been maybe a good idea, but the what?
Radio tags.
Yeah, radio tags. Yeah. But anyway, it wasn't exactly the project, but you can see that they will feed there for sure, but there's so many other species also. So for us, it's maybe not a problem now, but at some point it can be.
Just to endorse that, we had a big study when I was running a research station in the west of Ireland, but we did the two things. We looked at a rock like Joni's, but we also looked at what was happening in terms of the outlet from our lake. So the impact on the smolts at the outlet from the lake was very significant. When we actually divided out simplistically the actual amount of smolts over the whole colony in Clew Bay, you would have concluded exactly what we heard earlier, that it wasn't an impact. So the idea that you have rogues, whether it's seals or whether it's cormorants, I think that's really the important part, is understanding that particular component. So there was yourself, then one behind there first.
Thanks. Did you look at the whole journey for these the picked up tags as opposed to just the bit where the bass was spawning? Because I would have thought, just from the pictures you've shown, the bit where the bass would have spawned would have been a much more sensitive predictor of whether it was in a bass or in a smolt.
I would have looked at, jump back through all those careful slides. So I would have basically looked at the whole section of river. The one variable that really stood out as being a really strong predictor is both, and they're highly correlated, the number of reversals as well as the cumulative upstream distance swam. In short, I don't know if I'm getting at your question, but I think the strength of it comes in how many receivers you have in that lower portion of the river. That you need to have, at least a moderate resolution in your data to really be able to pick up on a signal there. So I don't know if I answered that your question at all.
It just seemed from the pictures you've shown that the bass, it depends on most of the bass spawning at the same time in the same place. And if you're seeing a signal there at that time, that tag was in a bass. In the same way you said that the one going out 800 miles away was in a smolt, which is perfectly reasonable as well.
Yeah. See, the problem is a lot of the smolt are actually passing through that area
at the same time.
At the same time.
So it's not as distinguishable as it seems on those maps.
Yeah. I would have had to set that up as, did it happen, yes or no, in this window of time.
My second question is your expert system any better than 3 people eyeballing it? Because humans are quite good at picking out patterns and things like this.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people have done this. They've just looked at it and they go, that's just crazy. There's no way that's actually a smolt. That's got to be some type of predator. The problem, I think, with it comes from the subjective manner of the way that we do it. So, for example, for kind of gags, I went through an entire year's worth, I produced plots for every single smolt that we've ever tagged and tracked. And so I'd have, other people from my office just come in and go, okay, what do you think? Smolt or bass, smolt or bass. And, I painfully sat them down in front of 200 smolts and say, tell me what you think. And they're not all,
I do realise that you've only shown special, beautiful examples really clearly.
Yeah. There's those kind of it's kind of fuzzy. Maybe it's a smolt, maybe it's a bass. And I've done the same thing just with myself, where I do one and I come back to it 3-4 weeks later, and I do it over again, and just myself, I'm giving you different answers. So I think.
But you've not done those studies formally to look at inter and intra-observer variability of your interpretation of them.
Yeah.
Did you do that formally?
Oh no, I'm just kind of playing around.
But you may know from your informal things that you don't need to do it formally. I do appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Thanks. That's fine.
Yeah, I thought that's actually a really nice example of how you can, use some modelling approaches to try and define predation information. So that's nice. Two quick queries though. The first one is I was surprised to see how long these tags seem to be staying in the bass. My experience long time ago, was when we were trying to tag Atlantic cod with tags placed in the stomach, so putting it in a bait and in the cod. As soon as pretty much the food item is digested, they'd regurgitate the tag. Now your tags are smaller. They regurgitate it. These were bigger tags, olden days. Your tags are smaller, and so there is a possibility the carnivorous fish, they have a well-defined stomach and pyloric sphincter. There's a possibility they could be going through the gut and being passed out the other end. But I'm surprised it takes that long. And therefore it would be worth having some stripers in captivity, putting tags in smolts and seeing what happens to those in terms of if they're regurgitated, if they pass through, perhaps X-radiographing some of them. That's one thing. The other thing, though, that is more relevant is in your scaling measures where you're saying, okay, these are the ones pretty sure taken by the stripers, an 80-90% probability, and you've got those other ones in the middle, and you ended up adding those all up. That implies, and you came up with this could be the percentage taken by stripers, but that implies that they're the only predator there, and yet you know there'll be a whole bunch of other predators there that exhibit rather different behaviour patterns.
Right.
So maybe a whole bunch of those that are in the middle just represent all these other predators that are taking them anyway.
Yeah, that's possible. There's not, I mean, there is a lot of other predators. Certainly in the Miramichi system, not at that abundance. A lot of stuff would be avian, like the video that you showed of all the cormorants taking off. The cormorants that you see on the Miramichi River, when you're boating up that river in early May when the smelt move in, it's just mind-blowing. And I think that that's kind of always been the impression that the majority of the predation is avian in the Miramichi, if I'm not mistaken. Some people have said, well, you know, kelts are going to take a few. Well, sure, you know, and there's you know, what we call sea trout are, you know, sea-run brook trout. I almost said rainbow. Sea-run brook trout, and I mean, handfuls. Not to say that it's not possible, but I think you'd get a couple of examples of it, and not picking up on the same cues the model's picking up on in terms of, but
in other systems,
it would be hard to transfer something like this somewhere else, especially the way that I said, you know, this is true smolt movement. Most people here, you don't have this gate that smolts can cross 800 kilometers away. It's just not realistic. But yeah.
Thanks, Jason. Any other comments? Anyone else anything to add? No more comments? Okay, if not, then I might just say a few final words, if I may. First of all, just to thank you all indeed for coming, and particularly to thank those who provided us with such wonderful papers. I think it was very successful. How then are we going to follow up on this? We're going to try something completely new. We're going to try and produce a virtual blue book. AST in the past was well known for its blue books, whereby we tried to produce reports, scientific reports based on the meetings. A little less than a formal proceedings, but they have been very well used down the years. James, you might stand up for a moment. James Barry has been taking careful notes here for the last couple of days, and we've picked James as a victim. He's going to be our rapporteur in terms of our virtual blue book. So the virtual blue book then will appear on the AST website. And if any of you are contacted by James, you might be kind enough to work directly with them in terms of clarifying any of the points. We're lucky in that most of the material, I think, will be on YouTube, on video. Thanks, James. The second thing is that, indeed, as we did with the smolt conference, or with the stocking conference, I should say, in 2013, everything has been recorded, and the highlights, quite extensive highlights, including discussion periods and the presentations, they'll all be on YouTube. And certainly the number of hits that we've received in terms of the stocking conference has been really encouraging. And that's why we decided we'd do the same this time. So hopefully, over time, we'll have a series of recorded events that AST have organised over time. So that's certainly hopefully going to be a useful resource. The main thing is to thank the two teams who put the whole thing together. In terms of the Tweed team, then, to thank Faye and Nick, Ronald, Kenny and James. James, I think, is fitter than he's ever been running around the room, so thank him for that. In terms of the AST team, then, we had Pamela, we had Sarah, we had Tiggy, we had Ivor, and of course we have James. So they really put this together for you, and I think they did a very good job. Finally, just to thank you all very much indeed for coming, and to wish you a very pleasant and a safe journey home. I hope you got a lot out of the conference. We certainly enjoyed having you. Thank you very much.